Jesus has something for you, as well as the masses, the number, quantity, large group of people that are watching, individually as well as collectively, the whole. And before we jump into that, of course, we need our joke. Seriously, I'm not kidding you. This joke is going to totally make you laugh, especially if you know a little bit of German. So, what did the German physicist use to drink his beer? Ein Stein. I know, it's like awful, but you know, little levity goes a long way, especially Sarah levity. It's kind of shady. But let's come back to Matthew 15 and look at these verses, because in Matthew 15, verses 29 to 39, we see some really cool stuff go on here. And we see Jesus is up on the mountain. That's kind of the first verse gives the context. He's up on the mountain, and there's a big crowd that comes and sits down around him. But I want us to look at some individual miracles that happened with people coming around Jesus. And the first place I want us to look is in verses 30 and 31. And when you look at these verses here, it says, large crowd came to him, bringing with them those who were lame, crippled, blind, mute, and many others. And they laid them at his feet, and he healed them. So the crowd marveled as they saw the mute speaking, the crippled restored, the lame walking, the blind seeing, and they glorified the God of Israel. And I really like looking at these individual healings, because I think when we sit down and take a pause and really consider them, and when you look at these individual healings, you see this word lame, and those little squiggles next to it is Greek, chulos, and it means unable to walk or mobility compromised. And you're like, well, you know, maybe you can walk and it's not an issue for you. But I want us to think of these ailments not only in physical terms, but possibly as well in spiritual or emotional terms, or even in your soul, in your heart. Sometimes we're not able to go someplace because it's hard for us. There's a wound, there's a hurt in our heart that compromises our mobility. Well, the next thing too, it says they're crippled. And crippled, you might think, well, that's just a synonym with lame. But actually in the Greek, it's a different word. You can see the little squiggles there. But the deal on it is maimed means deformed, or crippled means deformed, maimed, or crippled. So the man with the withered hand, if you remember him, and it's something that is in your body. It could also be in your soul and your heart emotions that is malformed or is maimed. And I think sometimes we can relate to this, not just physically, but maybe we have things, what I would call compensatory behaviors. That there's something that's broken and dysfunctional in us that causes us to move, behave, make decisions in ways based off of that deformity. And I want us to think about these things, not just in physical terms, but also in our hearts, in our emotions, in our thoughts. Because if you know, and I'm going to tell you this, Jesus heals all this. As you go down the next one, blind. It's the Greek word tuflos, and obviously means not able to see. But when you think about that, as it relates to not just your physical vision, but it can also relate to your inability to understand, see clearly. There might be some confusion. You might have some distorted sense of reality in your heart, in your soul, in your mind. Your perceptions could be askew without light. And Jesus heals also not just physical blindness, but also what we might have in our perceptions. Our perceptions might have an insecurity bend, a chip on the shoulder, a victim mindset, where our perceptions are distorted and warped. The other thing we see that Jesus healed the mute. This is the Greek word kophus, and it means those who are unable to talk. And it's not just a physical inability to talk, but sometimes we might struggle. Maybe if we have some PTSD experiences, we might have some struggles. Maybe there's been some intense emotional experiences where we shut down and we have a hard time communicating. But I appreciate that Jesus heals these individual ailments and inabilities. And so if you're watching tonight, I just want to encourage you that Jesus is here to heal you of your blindness, heal you of the inability to speak, heal you of your inability to walk, heal you of whatever's crippled, and heal you whatever's happening, not just physically, but also in your soul and in your emotions.